First of all, I would like to apologize to all my listeners for being really bad at tech. There are so many little things to pay attention to when recording. It completely escaped me that when I record at home, I need to select the right microphone, like this one in front of me. So if in the bite-sized episodes I sounded like I was talking from a cardboard box, I'm really sorry. But now I know what to do on the tech front. But even better, I know what to do on the personal well-being front for business success. So I suppose I'd better get on with that. And what a topic I'm bringing you today. This is a myth that affects so many. Let me tell you that you don't have a time management problem. In fact, you have never had a time management problem. What you might have is an allocation problem. The hours are there, all 24 of them in every single day, irrelevant of what you do. So the question is whether the right work is getting done in those hours. So thank you for listening to Routine is Revenue, recorded on the correct microphone going forward, I can assure you now. This is your place to build personal well-being routines in order to bring business results. I'm Ildikó Sealey, your routine and performance strategist. I help business owners stop letting work expand into every available hour and start deliberately assigning their best time to their most important tasks. So this episode is for you if you are busy all day but can't quite account for where your time has gone. If you are ready to build a working week with real structure rather than just responding to whatever arrives in front of you, I suggest we get into this. Now, in this routine reset, we look at the foundation to success, and that is time allocation. That means deliberately assigning blocks of time to the right tasks. And that's so that your most important work gets your bestest hours of your day, rather than whatever is left over after everything else. Now, if you haven't already, please hit follow or subscribe so you don't miss the next bite-sized episode. Okay, have you ever noticed that there is a particular kind of exhaustion that comes from overworking on the wrong things? Now, I'm sure you know the feeling. Here's a simple scenario. You've been at your desk all day, you've done a lot of work, but the thing that actually needed to happen that week, the thing that would have actually moved the needle forward, somehow you will find that that is the very thing that didn't get done. Again, you might also think. So do you feel that there is something wrong with your discipline? Well, I think it rather has something to do with how you allocate your tasks to the required time. When we don't assign time deliberately, work just expands to fill whatever space it finds. Now, some of the most obvious ones are like, emails. They get a disproportionate number of hours because they are always there for your attention. And then the other classic, well, for some anyway, it can be admin work because it can take the entire morning because it's simply easier than the needle moving tasks that are kind of scary. But the revenue generating tasks, the creative work, the strategic thinking, and the client facing activities, they just end up in the gaps, if there were any left, that is. So we covered prioritization clarity in Routine Reset 2 all the way back at the beginning of February. Prioritization clarity is when everything feels important and you default to whatever feels most urgent. Time allocation is the structural answer to that very problem. It takes the prioritization decision and locks it into your calendar before the day even starts, so urgency can't override importance by default. Now, the research on peak cognitive performance consistently shows that most people have a 2 to 4 hour window each day when their thinking is sharpest. That doesn't sound a lot, does it though? So my question to you is, do you know when your sharp thinking hours are? And is your most important work in that window, or is it actually buried somewhere in the afternoon after your best energy has already gone? But the way to look at it is that your calendar doesn't actually reveal your priorities. It reveals your decisions. So time allocation done effectively works through three main practices. One is identifying your peak window, then blocking those windows for each day before the week starts, and finally protecting those blocks that you've set. So let's start with identifying your peak window. It just simply means that you get honest about when your brain actually works best. Now, for a lot of people, it's the first 2 to 3 hours in the working day, which is one of the reasons why having a morning routine that we covered in Routine Reset 9 matters so much. Although I put my hand up, I acknowledge the morning is not the most productive time for everyone. But a morning routine still warms you up for a successful day, just like a warm-up gets an athlete ready for a race. But whether or not the early hours are your best, how you start your day directly affects when your peak arrives and how long it then lasts. So the next step for successful time allocation is blocking those peak windows before the week starts. It means just simply sitting down, ideally outside your working week, maybe on a Friday afternoon or a Sunday evening or any time in between, and assign specific tasks to specific time slots in the coming week. But here, please make a note to yourself, it's not about writing a to-do list. It's getting your actual calendar and plotting the revenue generating and strategic tasks into your peak windows. Then the rest of it, like admin tasks, checking emails, the reactive stuff, that just goes into the lower energy slot. However, if I play devil's advocate here and challenge the research, let me recite one of my one-to-one clients' argument. She deliberately organizes client sessions into her low energy time slots because the conversations are so incredibly energizing that they lift her up. She said if she had to do admin in those low energy slots, she'd probably fall asleep. But the conclusion reflects one of my core values. We are all different, and there is no one-size-fits-all template here. So to put this into practice, you are essentially having the time allocation conversation with yourself before the week has it for you. And the third practice is protecting those blocks. And that simply means treating those calendar entries like appointments you cannot cancel. Treat them with the utmost respect, like your best paying client, because that is your time with the most important client you will ever have, and that's your business. Now, I'll be honest about where I've had to apply this myself recently, because with so many moving parts in the business, the temptation is to respond to whatever is loudest on any given day. Probably the most recurring one is checking and answering emails or perhaps social media comments, because everybody says so. But my biggest black hole are tasks that feel quick and very satisfying to cross off a to-do list. I don't know if you share that. But then you look up at the thing that you actually needed to do that week that could well be sitting there still untouched. So I decided to go back to basics, a weekly template with named blocks. I had a massive holiday dip in July into my discipline, and I now reinstated my morning focus session for content creation and social media engagement. Remember, I was raving about visibility last week, so I'm trying to do that as well. Then plot in the revenue generating work in the mornings, the client sessions, the things that need my high energy. And then all the sales and marketing tasks, the direct outreach, the ones I realized that, not too long ago that actually they weren't so evil. And then finally, all the admin in the afternoon when my brain is fried in this summer heat. But actually, I personally love doing the admin tasks. Now, it's obviously not always easy to protect those blocks, but I've now learned that when I do, the output is measurably different. And it's noticeable that the work that matters actually gets done, and everything else fits around it. Now, the conclusion is that time allocation doesn't give you more hours, but it gives you the right hours to the right work. And that is the whole game. Again, if I could recite another one of my one-to-one clients, she messaged me a month after finishing the Routine is Power program that this is what she said. I just wanted to tell you that I finished all my paperwork for the coaching and mentoring accreditation. You got me to do this with your T.E.M.P.L.E method. Now, what moved her on was not magic. I can tell you that for certain. It was structuring her time allocation. While going through the program, she started allocating focus time to the tasks that kept getting pushed to the bottom of the list for months before she followed the program. So what happens to your business if the allocation stays unmanaged? Now, let me guess. You keep filling your days with stuff. I'm pretty sure that you keep working hard, but the ratio of effort to progress stays uncomfortable because effort without direction compounds adversely. So over time, the tasks that actually build the business just keep getting deferred. Now, you might value those tasks, but if the structure isn't there to protect them, they won't get done. And deferred long enough, they just become missed opportunities. But here is also a hidden confidence cost. When you are busy but not progressing, you start to question whether you are even capable when you are actually just simply unallocated. But busy is not the same as productive, and productive is not the same as strategic. It's time allocation that bridges that gap. So please tell me, when do you start allocating your time deliberately rather than letting it be claimed by whatever arrives on your desk? At the end of this quarter? Or will it be when the kids go back to school in a couple of weeks? Well, how about this week? Please look at your diary right now. Where is your most important work scheduled? And is that where it should be? Now, if this has highlighted a gap, your next step is simple. If you are working hard, but the right work is still not getting done, then you can take my simple hidden bottleneck quiz. In around 5 minutes, it will help you uncover the underlying pattern having the biggest impact on your energy, on your focus, and your performance, so you can decide where your time and attention need to go first. Of course, you will find the link in the show notes. And in the meantime, please allocate deliberately. The right work in the right hours makes everything else possible. And remember, a healthier you makes a wealthier you.